What's going on, everybody? I'm back. We are back. Everybody's back. You're watching the UGA Sports call-in show. I'm Paul Maharry, joined alongside tonight Ben Bachmann, one of the newest members of our staff over at UGASports.com. And we are going to dive into a ton of recruiting for you guys tonight. That's what Ben specializes in. We're going to talk about who could be the quarterback in 2023. Not only are we talking about on the field for Georgia, but who could be that quarterback for Georgia in the class of 2023, as we're starting to see some big names emerge. Arch Manning also, tons of other names, Dylan Longer, inside the state of Georgia. So you've got those guys. We're going to dive deep into that. And then also the July commitment decisions. Could July 22nd be a huge day for Georgia? We'll dive into exactly what and why that could be a huge day for Georgia. Also, we're going to have Dave McMahon with us for a little while later on in the show. He's going to bring some stats for you guys. And as always, we want to hear about your questions. We want to hear from you guys. That's what we do this show for. The number's right there if you want to give us a call, 706-363-3773. And also in the chat, if you're watching, let us know where you're watching from and put your questions in the chat. We'll get to them as quick as we can. Ben, first of all, thanks for coming on the show, man. Glad to have you on.
Yeah, no problem. I'm actually fired up today to talk about these quarterbacks. Anyone who saw me on the message board this week knows I was quite heated on the Arch Manning talk, so
yeah,
I'm fired up here.
Well, let's dive right into it. I'm going to let you kind of lead the discussion on this. Now we're talking about 2023. I want to talk about also who's going to be on the field for Georgia potentially. But before we do that at the quarterback position, let's talk about who you could see Georgia going after in the class of 2023. If you're new to recruiting, which a lot of you that are watching probably are not, you're probably recruiting fanatics. But if you're new to recruiting, quarterbacks normally commit a lot sooner than other positions. The reason being they want to lock down that spot. They want to be that captain for the recruiting side of things, so to speak, and be that leader before they even step on campus. So a lot of quarterbacks really try to commit around now, a little later into their juniors football season. You don't see a lot of quarterbacks in their senior season being undecided, and there's for good reason, like I said. So Ben, kind of walk us through those quarterbacks. Who's Georgia looking at? I know you mentioned Arch Manning. He's the big name, and obviously that last name Manning means something, right?
Yeah, well, he's the number one rated quarterback in that class. Obviously, I'm just going to say right out the gate, for him, there's going to be no pressure on a quarterback coming out of high school or a football player coming out of high school like him. You're talking about a third-generational kid. He's named after his grandfather. He's one of the greatest college players of all time. It would have been better in the NFL if he wasn't on the Aints, not the Saints. And then you had his uncles who were both Super Bowl champions. So obviously he's a guy who he's number one on the board. I think it's pretty obvious. It's going to be him. He was on campus a few weeks ago. And then after that, Marcel Reed, dual threat quarterback out in Tennessee. Malachi Singleton, a quarterback at North Cobb. We talked about Dylan Londren. Could be a baseball prospect. Could be a first-round pick in the baseball draft next year. So will he play baseball? Will he play quarterback at the college level or not? We'll see about that one. And then there's a few other names that are definitely going to arise. I think Malachi Singleton at North Cobb is a really intriguing one. He's a teammate of Denylon Morset and Marquise Killebrew, who I believe is going to North Cobb. I also think Sam Mabake is going to go there as well. So he's a quarterback to watch as well. The state of Georgia, compared to all the other states in recent memory, has been as deep as any state when it comes to quarterback talent. So Georgia's not going to have a problem getting a 2023 quarterback. But I think the one big question is, when they got this on the board, and I have to admit it did offend me a bit, was someone said Georgia should not take Arch Manning because it would scare Gunnar Stockton and Brock Vandagriff. Now, that kind of upset me. If you have a quarterback who's already in the program and he's scared of a guy who's in high school, why are you taking that kid on your roster? Those guys are not scared of Arch Manning. I don't know. That's still one of the – there's not many dumb takes out there, but I got to admit that might be a dumb take there. I mean, Arch Manning's going to look at Gunnar Stockton and really every school Arch has visited as a 2022 quarterback committed who's a top 100 player. He's going to have a year off. So wherever he goes, outside of if he chooses Ole Miss from the looks of it, he's going to have to compete with an elite quarterback. I mean, with all of these top schools, he's going to have to compete with a quarterback. I don't think he's scared of anybody, and I think he believes he can walk in and start year one or year two. That class separation is going to be a thing now that I know a lot of people want, like Brock Vandagriff, and also really That's the interesting thing about Arch is his recruitment's going to be different because obviously you look at the Mannings, how they go about it, not on social media at all. They don't talk to media. They haven't talked to us here. We haven't gotten much of an interview with them because that's who they are. They're very low key. They're going to visit their schools. We don't know when he's going to commit. He could be a signing day decision. And honestly, that might be good for Georgia because suppose Brock Vandagriff wins the job next year and then that class separation is there. Suppose Beck wins and then he goes, well, Beck can be out. I could start as a freshman. I mean, that's something to watch where when does he decide? Because that can give him, if he waits a while, he could look at Georgia and be like, well, what's my easier path road to start? Because I think any path road still says Arch Manning could come in year 1 or 2 and play at Georgia. And really for Georgia fans, they should be wanting the best possible quarterback. And if Arch is better than all those guys, if he commits and he's there, that extends their window for quarterbacks another, year or two, where they're going to have a good option at quarterback. So that talk of don't take him because you're going to offend other quarterbacks, I don't know what people are saying on that.
Well, I mean, so I don't know so much if it's going to offend them, right, or get into the feelings of Gunnar Stockton and Brock Vandagriff, but you've got to kind of look at just the track record. I think Georgia fans are a little bit leery of bringing in a 5-star kid after a 5-star kid after a 5-star kid at quarterback. You saw what happened at Georgia. Obviously, Justin Fields, Jacob Eason, and Jake Fromm. You were left with one at the end of the day, and now you saw what ended up happening after you did that. You had to start Stetson Bennett for 6 or 7 games beginning of the year. You had to go out and find a JT Daniels. You tried to go find a Jamie Newman. You were in scramble mode at your biggest position that runs the whole entire offense. Ben, I guess that's where people are coming from with that, is that yes, you do want the class separation, and when you look at a school, I think that the school that does this the best is Clemson. Clemson does a great job of this, where they bring in a 5-star prospect and then they bring in a developmental prospect behind him, and they do that year after year after year. They brought in DJ. In between DJ, they had Trevor Lawrence. They brought I can't even say his last name. It's like 17 syllables long. Famine. No, not
something like that. I think Ungalele.
No, not DJ. The developmental kid that they brought in between them. It was like Famachan or something like that.
2019, his name was like Hey Sam something. It was something like that.
Right. Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. It was a dual threat quarterback.
Yeah. Correct. So they brought him in, created that class separation, and now this year, class of 2022, they're bringing in Cade Klubenek, who is a really good quarterback out of the state of Texas, and Clemson has done a really, really good job of class separation. I think. And, I don't want to speak for anybody, but I think that's what's got Georgia fans concerned is you bring all these 5-star quarterbacks in. And look, we're not saying Arch Manning's coming to Georgia, folks. That's not what we're saying at all. Yeah. We're just saying if that were to be the case in 2023 and Arch Manning were to commit, you're not going to keep Brock Vandagriff. You're not going to keep Gunnar Stockton and Arch Manning all on the same roster. These guys are smart. They're trying to get to the next level, and they're trying to, obviously have a highlight tape to show for that. Very few times, and I don't know if we'll ever see this again with the way NIL is working and the way the transfer portal is working, are you going to see a quarterback room like you did at Alabama, where you had Jalen Hurts, Tua, and you had Mac Jones, who are all going to be playing in the NFL. 2 of them are going to be starting, and Mac Jones, who knows what could happen up there. He could be starting as a rookie for the Patriots. So you're never going to see another quarterback room with 3 guys in it that are willing to wait their turn, right? And so I think that's where Georgia fans get a little leery. And obviously, and we've seen this with Kirby Smart numerous times, Ben, he wants to take the player at the position that he thinks is the best player available. If he was an NFL GM, he would be drafting his team on BPA. He would be drafting it solely on best player available and let the chips fall to where they may. But he's a head coach in college football. And so what he's doing, though, is he wants to take the best player, let them fight it out. I just think Georgia fans are a little leery about that just because, I don't know, the track record with the last time Georgia had 3 5-star quarterbacks on campus, or 3 5, you had 2 and then you had Fields. You get what I'm saying? It didn't end up well. So I think that's what they're worried about. Dave put in the Clemson quarterback, Tyson. Oh, he retracted it there. It's Tyson Fumanchu or something like along those lines. But anyways, that's who they took.
Bubba Chandler, right? I think he was committed to Georgia for baseball. And now he might get drafted tonight. Probably in a few minutes he might get drafted for all we know.
But
that's also a thing there.
That's a developmental quarterback that they took off a year behind, and now they're moving on to Cade. See, Clemson's kind of gotten it going, and who knows? Right before Trevor was Chase Bryce. So that's kind of how they go. So Dave said
And what was his name? It was like Hunter. No, it was something Hunter Johnson.
Oh, Hunter Johnson. Correct.
But also, the one thing about them was Trevor started as a freshman, and that was bold. Because Trevor was generational. Like Arch could be in the same realm as Trevor as he's being built up. That wherever he goes, he's going to start. Like I said, outside of Ohio State with Quinn Ewers, there's nowhere where I see Arch can't start year 1 or 2. It's just, but my thing is with Kirby, because he's in college, not the NFL. The NFL, you have to go by position to a degree, because you can't just take quarterback after quarterback after quarterback, obviously, where you're restricted with your draft picks and your salary cap. You're restricted. Where Kirby every year can say, I can get the best quarterback every year to recruit. So I get that, but he obviously wants the main thing, which I get Georgia fans' perspective of. We had those three guys. But the thing is, Kirby knows as a head coach, you have to get the best player at each position. It's like the same deal with.
I don't know. I kind of disagree, Ben, and I'm glad that you're on that side. I'm on this side. At the quarterback position, I think you want to. I just really like how Clemson approaches it. That's my only thing, is you take that 5-star kid, that guaranteed kid who's going to start for your program, and very rarely do they not pan out, and then you take that developmental kid behind them, and everybody's happy, man. Everybody's happy. You're not getting guys transferring. That's just my take.
But they're already not doing it because you've got Brock and Gunner back-to-back already as is. Now, some Georgia fans are speaking hypothetically that Brock's going to play 2 years. I called it the Dwayne Haskins model at Ohio State. I think it was J.T. Barrett, who was ahead of Dwayne the previous years. Took 2 years, redshirted, so he had 3 years eligibility, and started 1 year and was out. Now, the issue with that is now the NFL people are talking about all these one-year starters in college are not panning out in the NFL. The Trubisky's and those guys. So that does worry people, and that's getting back to some of these college and high school kids. But you look at it, it's very unlikely. Now, it's possible. We're not doubting it. Both Brock and Gunner both play at Georgia and end up in the NFL and do big things, both at Georgia. But just those two both staying is in most cases, that's very unlikely.
Okay.
As is.
Yeah. Then if you're looking,
wins though, and you don't get an elite 2023 quarterback, then you're shot. So when you look at it, you're right, but there's so many scenarios. I think the only way to tell is who wins the job next year will tell, because if Brock wins, Beck is likely gone because he has less eligibility. So he's probably gone or will have to sit his full career and redshirt something to be able to play. And Gunner, what's in his mind? We don't know if he would be willing to sit 2 years if Brock wins the job, because suppose Gunner then bounces as well. Then you need a 2023 quarterback to sit and learn for a year, be a backup for a year. You're going to then be the guy, like Clemson. So they're in an interesting position because they've already done that. We're going to get the best quarterback each year. Well, now they're setting it up as if they don't pick the right quarterback, or they pick the right one and then they eventually miss on a quarterback in like 2023, long-term they're not set up. They're going to have to take a transfer or bank on a true freshman quarterback.
And
so,
I know this is even throwing another wrench into it for you, Ben, but JT Daniels is technically only a junior. I mean,
technically.
I think we all think that he's going to go to the NFL, but if that happens, then your quarterback room you really need a 2023 guy, because you're going to have some guys transferring. Let's get over to the chat real quick. If you're watching, guys, put where you're watching us from. We love to hear. I love to shout it out, man. We've had folks watch from Hawaii. We've had folks watch from almost every state. I should have printed out a little map, Ben, and started checking them off, because we're close. We're close to 50 states. If you're watching, put in where you're watching us from, guys. We're so glad.
Maryland, right here.
Yeah, we got Maryland over there where Ben's at. So, guys, we want to know where you're watching us from. Let us know. Put it in the chat. And then if you have any questions, guys, if you're not wanting to call in, put it in the chat. We'd love to get to your questions. If you are wanting to call in, though, guys, 706-363-3773, and we will get to your questions. I see some names already in the chat. Jacob Watson's watching. Q-Flow says, greetings. How are you doing, Q-Flow? Q-Flow says, don't worry about QBs. Kirby has shown that he will keep recruiting them. Yeah, you're right. You are right about that.
True.
And then he has a question about Travis Shaw. We'll get to that as well. And then Martin Arenado says, are they going hard after Nolan? Him and Shaw would be awesome. Look, seems like we want to talk about nose tackles, so we will get to that in just a second, Martin. And then Brett Weimer says, Roosevelt, Utah. I've seen your name in here before, Brett. I don't know if I knew you were in Utah, so I think we can check that off the board. I don't know if we've had a Utah yet, so appreciate that, Brett.
Are here. Wow.
Yeah, so appreciate that. Big Sam, Okinawa, Japan. Really? Oh, we appreciate you watching over. What time is it over there, Sam? Let us know. Are you into the next day already or not? So let us know. And then Trent says, greetings from Orlando, Florida. Yeah, Trent Smallwood is at Disneyland, guys. We all just got back. Oh, Brent's on vacation. Okay, cool. That scared me a little bit there, Weimer. I was like, man, I didn't know if you were in Utah or not. Pretty cool to be out there on vacation. Let's see here, guys. They want to talk about nose tackles, Ben. I think we should talk about some nose tackles here. Q-Flow says, do you guys think that Georgia will get Shaw? Georgia needs a nose in this class. And then Martin followed it up with, are they going hard after Nolan? Him and Shaw would be awesome. Real quick before you answer, Ben. Jeremy Williams says, evening, y'all, from Dallas, Georgia. Thank you so much for watching, Jeremy. And Ben, you got the floor, man. It seemed before I give you the floor, though, it seems like, and we talked about this a lot, Trent and I did a few months back, that everybody was ready to give Trey Scott the Recruiter of the Year award, right? It seemed like everything was going so smooth. You had Christian Miller, you had, you have Tyree West, you had so many big name guys you were in for that it seemed like the defensive line haul for the class of 2022, Ben, was going to be unreal. And now everything has kind of stopped, it seems like it. Everything has the train has all the momentum in the world, and it's been a huge roller coaster. And where are we right now on this roller coaster? Is Georgia on its way back up with these guys, or is this the roller coaster that goes underneath the earth and you're down there for a little while, you can't see anything? What's this defensive line class looking like, Ben?
Well, it's really been all over the place because you start Bear Alexander decommits. I think the smart money's on A&M. I think that's pretty much where that's why he decommitted. That's the number one school. So I think that's where the smart money is at for him. But once he decommitted, and Michael Williams, that was a weird deal because he's a guy who now apparently we thought, me, you, Trent, when we were covering, we thought he was a D end. Now he's talking about, I was being recruited outside linebacker, and there's all talked about where he sits on Georgia's board and where Georgia was recruiting him and the USC connection. So that one was all over the place, because Georgia was the team to beat for a period of time there, and positions changing, all these things. So now we're at a point where obviously the talk is Travis Shaw and Walter Nolan. Now, first, I've seen this before. Would they take both guys? Of course they would take both guys. I think some of these type deals, you see a top 10 player in the country who Georgia's recruiting that hard, they would find a way to take both guys. And they could play together. I think Walter Nolan would fit more in that Jalen Carter role at D tackle. I think the more natural nose to me would be Travis Shaw, filling in for Jordan Davis. Now, also a North Carolina guy now. Where they sit with them, I'm willing to make a bold prediction that Walter Nolan ends up in Georgia. As of right now, I would make a bold prediction that he ends up at Georgia. Now, Travis Shaw could go either way between Georgia and North Carolina. As Trent talked about, that's one that could go. Georgia, very realistic. North Carolina, very realistic. So either way, but Walter Nolan, if you were to pick right now, I could change, obviously, it would be Georgia.
Wow. So you guys heard it here first. If Ben Choppy Bachmann is wrong, meet him over on the vault, guys. As of right now, he says he thinks Walter Nolan ends up at Georgia. I'm not convinced, folks, on any of the defensive line. And to the point of, I think it was, let's see, Martin said, are they going hard after Nolan? Him and Shaw would be awesome. Yes, I think they were going hard after both of them, and they were going hard after Georgia wanted to get one of these guys even with Bear committed as well. So if they were, so they were still looking at another guy, even having Bear committed. So they all three kind of fit that same mold. Like Ben said, Travis is a little bit bigger, more of the Jordan Davis type, but they all fit that same mold that Georgia really needs. I mean, this is the year that they can truly sell playing time, because once Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt, Georgia was really lucky to get both of those guys back this year. Let's not, make a mockery out of it or anything like that. Devontae Wyatt he doesn't get his name called a lot, but the guy's in the trenches, man. He doesn't get his name called all that often. He reminds me a lot of John Atkins, which he didn't get his name called a whole hell of a lot. And John Atkins was the reason that Georgia won a lot of football games, was because he just bullied in the middle, man. He took two guys on at the same time. Yeah, he wasn't getting tackles a ton, but if it weren't for a guy like John Atkins, you need that guy in there who doesn't get the name recognition's not there. But man, oh man, does he do wonders for your football program. And it just goes back to, if not for Devontae Wyatt coming back this year, I'm curious to see how Julian Rochester is going to play. Is your sound on, Ben? I don't know. We're getting a little feedback over here. Maybe you got some sound on, maybe on your phone or something. Sorry, but
my sound's on. Do you hear me?
Yeah, it's got a little feedback going on. Yeah, I can hear you. It's just got a little feedback, maybe like your phone sound or something. I don't know. But anyways, back to the point, guys. I'm curious to see what Julian Rochester can do.
Oh, I'm on my.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, cool. Curious to see what Julian Rochester can do and what he's capable of doing. And then you have Jordan Davis, who's definitely going to the draft after this year. What is the defensive line going to look like? Because you're going to rely on a lot of those freshmen, well, now they're sophomores, in the Nazir Stackhouse, Zion, what's his name? The kid from Tennessee. Zion Logue, and then you have Bill Norton. You've got you've got a lot of guys that, it's going to be interesting to see how they pan out. I don't know, guys. Defensive line to me right now, I'm not willing to pencil anybody into any predicted class for Georgia. Ben penciled in Walter Nolan to Georgia, which is huge. Ben is connected in a lot of areas. I'm just in a wait-and-see approach right now, guys, to see what exactly is going to happen, because I think that wherever Walter Nolan visits, the last school that he visits is his top school for a while. We've seen it with Florida. We've seen it with Georgia. We've seen it with Alabama. We've seen it with Michigan. It's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. I think that one's going to be a signing day decision all the way along. Travis Shaw right now, I think Georgia's best option would be Travis Shaw, because there's not that many teams involved heavily in him. I really think North Carolina is probably Georgia's biggest threat there. But moving on, guys, we want to talk about July commitment decisions. And there's a reason why we named the show July Commitment Decisions, because there are two guys committing on the same day, July 22nd. Could that be a huge day for Georgia? Absolutely, because of the fact Branson Robinson and DDS, Danny Dennis Sutton, who, if you weren't watching recently, you wouldn't know who he was. He's shot up in the recruiting rankings out of Pennsylvania. Both of those guys are committing on July 22nd. Ben, what do you have for us on those guys?
All right, first off, you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Wait, all right, you can hear me? Okay, so on those guys, so Branson Robinson, first off, number one running back. Right now, I feel good that Georgia is right now the team out in front for him. Alabama, Tennessee are the two others that are in it, that are the toughest competition. But right now, Georgia lands him very similar to Nick Chubb. Now, I know that everyone says, there's lazy comparisons. You compare a guy who went to that he goes there. But when you watch him, it's hard not to see Nick Chubb. When you look at them and how they run and how they lift and the style of runners they are, very similar to Nick Chubb. So that'd be a big one. He's the number one player in Mississippi. That'd be the second time Kirby's landed top player out of Mississippi, outside of, I believe, N'Kobe Dean, also from there out of Horns Lake. And then Denai Dennis Sutton for my neck of the woods, just 5 minutes down the road from me at McDonough High School. Actually, he's originally from Delaware. For those who don't know, he actually boards all the way from Delaware, drives an hour all the way out to go to McDonough for football. Private schools up here are very good. And right now, it's Georgia Penn State. Now, I would go Georgia right now. I feel Georgia's definitely got momentum in their favor. That last visit, the last weekend of visits in June, actually his high school head coach was visiting. Not him, but his high school head coach was in town. And some people said, well, why does that matter? Well, the high school head coach was there talking about scheme and things like that to get a better feel, to talk to an eye about, to see, how do you fit in this system? What are my viewpoints of it if you were to go to Georgia? And, he left impressed. The high school coach and Denai both feel very impressed with where he fits, because I know a lot of people are talking, see an outside linebacker, see a jack, is he going to grow into a DN? He probably can do both. He's going to be an edge guy. And I feel Georgia, as of right now, also, I would say Georgia And I always question, and I know you said it with Walter Nolan. When I make a prediction, I'm not saying it's done, but I'm saying as of now, because things could change with these kids, as we're talking.
Right, of course. Yeah, so I mean, that day for Georgia, obviously it's 10 days away from today. So that's going to be, man, my math is terrible. Let me look at the calendar here. I think that's a Wednesday. That's a Thursday. See, glad I looked at the calendar. That is a Thursday that could be huge for Georgia because, like Ben said, Branson Robinson is really, really talented. We saw him here at Rivals Camp in Atlanta. He walked up. He stole the show, guys. I mean, I'm not kidding you. Everybody was waiting on Branson Robinson to walk up. He finally did after, I don't know, maybe 150 kids checked in. Branson Robinson already looked like he was a college football running back. There was no denying it. He walked in. Everybody's eyes turned to him. Everybody immediately looked at him and said, hey, he's the next Nick Chubb. He looks just like Chubb. We have a video on the UGASports YouTube page that actually shot where he talks about how Herschel Walker is his idol. If you haven't watched that video, make sure to check it out. It's a few videos down now. We put it up a couple weeks ago, but really was a big hit because, like I said, he really looked up to Herschel Walker. He followed his workout program with the 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups, and it's a really, really good video, guys. You need to check that out on Branson. And then, like Ben said, it seems like right now everything's trending Georgia's way for Danny Dennis Sutton. And we talked about on the show a few weeks ago, guys, where we said his coach coming to Athens, Georgia, and I think Blaine Gilmer said that it was they tried to play it off as he was just in the area. Well, for me, the area is not really just coming down to Athens, Georgia. Even if you're coming down to Athens, you still have to drive from Atlanta to get there. I mean, it seemed very odd, right? And
yeah.
So it was one of those things where I think that only helped Georgia's chances. They really helped sit him down, show him how Danny could be used in Georgia's program, and he's a really good athlete. You package that with what Georgia already has on the defensive side of the ball for the class of 2022, and then you package Branson onto the side of the ball with Gunner and everything else that they have, the nylon on the offensive side for the class of 2022, and that class is really starting to shape up. The question mark obviously will be on the offensive line and the defensive line, but I don't think that Georgia's done in either one of those spots just yet. So, overall for Georgia, I think they're really sitting in a good spot for both these two guys. Ben, are there any other guys that we should be watching out for? And I think you have one before our next show that Georgia fans might want to watch his recruitment and his commitment.
Dalen Everett is Saturday, so obviously the day before our next show, and that's one to watch. Now, this is the recruitment where you can throw, obviously, 3 schools, I think, here, and I think Trent also talked about it, Clemson, North Carolina, and Georgia. Honestly, if he committed to any one of them, I would not be shocked. So if I was a smart betting man, I wouldn't bet at all on this because you hear a lot of different things on that one where he could end up, and I don't think any school's 100% confident, but he's one that Georgia seriously does have a chance with. A while ago, I was hearing Clemson was slipping, but then you hear Clemson could be the team. North Carolina, you hear a lot of connections there. His brother lives 20 minutes from North Carolina's campus. I believe he's going to school 20 minutes from the campus. So a lot of different connections, and Georgia hit it out of the park with his official. Keely Ringo, all the DBs. I think there's a picture of him, Nyland Green, Eric Stokes came up, and they had a few other guys, Brinney and Speed, and there's one more that's slipping me, L.C. Carroll. All of them in a picture of Dalen Everett, they were all on him. And when you have Eric Stokes and some of those guys that were talking to him for about a good 30 minutes lecturing about why he should come to Georgia, stuff like that. And I know Coach he is great connecting with him in Muschamp. So Georgia's got a real chance here. It's just the intel on him. Usually we have a really strong pulse or have a decent feeling. This is one where it's going to be very hard to read, but it's going to be one to at least pay attention to on Saturday.
So there's one, guys, that we're going to talk about potentially next Sunday. We'll definitely talk about it. We might be talking a little bit more in depth about it, or we might just skim over it and let you guys know where he committed to. Moving forward, Dave, if you're watching this, man, love for you to call in so we could talk a little stats with you. But just moving forward overall for Georgia recruiting-wise, Ben, what's your thoughts on the next month or so as Georgia fans? What should they be following?
I said this more as you talked about this with Walter Nolan, and I agree. When it comes to a prospect will visit a school, new leader, the guy who I can say that most with is Anai White. I think he's the guy you can say that most with because Georgia. I think a lot of Georgia fans are coming out of the official. Alabama, oddly enough, we didn't hear a whole lot coming out of the official, even though it seems like he had a great time there, and they're still obviously one of his top schools. But Ohio State, they were his last visit, have a ton of buzz for him right now. So that's one where I say if he's going to decide, we just talked about deciding in August, getting him on campus that last weekend in July. That's something to watch. Who visits campus the last weekend in July who has an August decision date? If Addison Nichols has an August decision date and you get him on July, that's a strong indicator. It's not the end-all be-all, but it's a really strong indicator, especially when a guy like Addison and a guy like Anai are all over the place. Even a guy like Walter Nolan. I would bet if Walter Nolan comes to Georgia a third time, that last week of July before he commits in August, I would feel very strong about that one. So that's one to watch. And I would also say there are some guys who are going to put out commitments like Tyler Booker. Sometime this month or next month, he's going to commit. And that's one guy who, if you subscribe over to UGASports.com and go over and check on the vault, I've been really confident in for some time. So he's one to keep an eye on because he's always talked about a summer decision among some other players as well. But he's definitely one in particular to watch and follow to see, when he's making his decision.
All right, we've got a caller here, Ben. Let's get it. Thanks for calling into the UGA Sports Call-In Show. I'm Paul. We've got Ben on the line. Who we got the pleasure of speaking with?
This is AP.
I'm sorry, who is it?
AP?
AP?
Yes.
All right, what's going on, AP? Where are you calling us from, man?
Calling from Athens, Georgia.
Athens, Georgia. All right. West side, east side, where at?
Technically Watkinsville, I guess. So right outside of Athens.
Okay, yeah, man. What we got for you?
I just wanted to ask Ben if he had heard anything about any other edge rushers if they do miss out on DDS or Ine White. If he has any comments on that.
Sure, man. Yeah. Well, can we answer that for you? And we'll answer it on the show for you.
All
right. Thank you, AP. Hey, so Ben, AP's asking if Georgia misses out on DDS and White, where do they turn? Hey, Ben, you there? I think we might have lost Ben, guys. I don't know. Ben, are you there? Let's see if we can get Ben back, guys. Sorry about that. Sorry for the technical hang-up here, guys. Trying to see if Ben can hear us or not. Hey, Ben, can you hear us? I don't know why we can't hear Ben now, folks. Hey, Ben, you there? Sounds like we've got Ben, guys. I'm gonna let Ben answer it. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I'm here. Here. Yeah.
All right, so
I'm here. All right, so you still hear me, right?
Yep, we can hear you. What you got?
All right, so for Anai White and Denai Dennis Sutton, if they were to miss on those guys, well, you have to think one name to watch till signing day, and is Shamar Stewart. He could be an edge guy, and he's not going to decide for a long time. So that's a guy who I've kind of said this. It's been my motto for years. If a guy's a signing day decision, don't and you really think this guy's strongly going to go signing day, I wouldn't stress over positioning as long as school's like outside the top 5 or something like that. He's a guy to watch. And then you have Carlton Madden, who right now Georgia sits in good shape with, who's going to decide on September 18th from Cedar Grove. And really those are the two guys off the top of my head that I know they're in on very hard. They could go back to Michael Williams at outside linebacker, still recruit him because that's the position that they see him at now. I know he's committed to USC, but, Melton's done till and it's paper. So he's another guy to watch. But I think edge, they're really zoned in because I think they feel confident with Denai and they feel confident with Carlton Madden. And if they land those guys, 3 edges, probably 4, only if they got 4 that they're like, we really like.
So there you go, AP. Hopefully that answers your question. It sounds like Ben's on top of that in terms of who Georgia's going after for that. If they do miss on those guys, and Carlton Madden, like Ben mentioned, is a huge name because he was committed to Colorado, Cedar Grove, local prospect. Georgia's had a lot of success recruiting out of Cedar Grove. You had Notori Johnson, then you had Justin Schaefer, who actually came back this year and will be starting again for Georgia on that offensive line. They've had a lot of success out of Cedar Grove. A lot of really good prospects have come out of Cedar Grove High School. Carlton Madden seems to be the next one on the list. He decommitted from Colorado. Georgia's been leaning into him heavily, and it seems like he has a committable offer. And so it's just one of those things where I think they're going to see where they work out with DDS. If it doesn't happen with DDS, I could see Carlton committing almost immediately after that. So Georgia does have some options, and Georgia really, really likes Carlton Madden and his ability to kind of bend the edge and get to the pass rushers. So that's where he's at with that. So let's see here. What do we have? All right, folks. Both audios are out. Can you guys hear us? If you guys can hear us, can you put something in the chat? I think my audio is working all right. Let's see. Is the audio working?
Mine was only breaking up a little bit, especially when the caller called in.
Okay. I think we have the audio here. If you guys can say it in the chat. Okay, never mind. It looks like a false alarm from Dave McMahon there. Dave, if you're watching, give us a call. We'd love to get your stats on the show real quick, man. And that'll be the kind of the last thing that we wrap up on. We've got another caller here, Ben.
Good with me. Good.
All right. Hey, welcome to the show. You are calling in on the UGA Sports call-in show with Ben and Paul. Who we got the pleasure of speaking with this evening?
This is a guy named Dave McMahon.
Oh,
hello, guys.
There you go, Dave. Yeah, you gave me a little scare there, man, telling me that my audio was out through a text message. Appreciate that.
You know what's weird is sometimes when you hit the mute button on your
Who's that guy?
computer, you can't hear either one of you. So
Yeah.
I think I fixed the problem by doing that.
Yeah, and you gave me a heart attack in the process, so I appreciate that. Everybody says they can hear us, Dave, except you, and you hit mute.
Yep.
So thank you so much.
Yeah, I think that's what the problem was. I was trying to hit a button just to make
Who's this
sure
guy?
that I didn't hear an echo, and I kind of ruined it for everything. So
Yeah,
lesson learned.
So
Hey Ben, welcome to the show.
Ben's on a little delay, Dave, just so you know. So
Okay.
he'll answer you in about 20
right.
seconds.
Okay, there you go. But okay, so I want to tell you a couple good stats for the week, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. First of all, I want to. I know you're all talking about football, and I'll get to that part in a little bit. But I want to start off with golf. Next week is a huge week in golf. It's the British Open or the Open Championship, as some people call it.
This game's interesting to me.
Depends on what side of the pond you are, and but that's what people call it. There was 8 former Bulldogs in the field because I never count Patrick Reed. There was 8, but now there's 7 since Bubba Watson. I don't know if you heard, Bubba Watson withdrew today because he was in contact with people that got positive for COVID. So he's not going to be participating, but there is still 7 Bulldogs in the field. I mean, Bubba struggles at the British Open, so it's not a huge loss. I mean, his best ever finish was tied for 23rd, but I mean, obviously you want to see as many Bulldogs out there as possible.
Right.
But yeah, there is 7 Bulldogs in the field. Harris English, who's probably the hottest golfer right now for Georgia. Harris English, he is in the field. Kevin Kisner, who has struggled this year somewhat, but he actually finished second in the 2018 British Open, and he was leading the British Open or co-leading after every round, but finished second to Molinari in 2018. So he's still in the field. And other Bulldogs like Russell Henley, Chris Kirk, Keith Mitchell, Brian Harmon, and Brendan Todd are also all in the field. So, I mean, best of luck out there. I mean, obviously, the British Open is a tough, always a tough venue out there with the winds and how cold it usually sometimes gets, even at this time of year. But I love the tournament because I can wake up and golf's already on.
There you
So,
go.
I mean, that's the beauty of being 5 hours behind those guys.
Right.
Okay, so that was golf. Now I want to switch to baseball a little bit since this week is also the All-Star Game. Tuesday is the All-Star Game. Jared Walsh, a guy that we both talked about 2 weeks ago on the air, so we were one of the first people that were hyping up Jared Walsh on any kind of the Georgia beat, and it was hyped up on this very show. So I mean,
It was.
come on,
It
guys.
was. It was.
Watch and listen to this show. You can hear groundbreaking stuff. Jared Walsh will be in the All-Star game this Tuesday. He became the fourth Bulldog ever to be in the All-Star game. The first one was a guy named Spud Chandler, or Spurgeon Chandler, if you want to know his real name. But Spud Chandler, not only was he 1943 regular season and World Series MVP, he was the 1942 winning pitcher of the All-Star game. Now, some people might say, Spud Chandler, what about his football career? Yes, he was very instrumental also in that first ever game in 1929 at Sanford Stadium against Yale. So there's a little tie into that. But, yeah, Spud Chandler was the 1942 winning pitcher of the Major League Baseball All-Star game. Also in the All-Star game was Glenn Davis in the 1980s. He was a two-time All-Star. He's the all-time home run leader by a former Bulldog. And maybe one day Jared Walsh will eclipse him. Who knows?
And then Alex Wood, right?
And Alex Wood. Like you mentioned Alex Wood most recently. Yeah, Alex Wood in 2017 was a Bulldog. So I want to congratulate Jared Walsh. Hopefully he'll make everyone proud. He became the 11th player all time to make an All-Star game, being drafted 39th and in the 39th round or later on.
Wow.
And I want to, speaking of the draft, let's see something that Ben brought up earlier, and I'm looking at the most recent draft. And so far, Bubba Chandler has still not been taken in the first 12 picks, but Kumar Rocker was taken 10th overall by the Mets. In case you're
little hometown North Oconee guy.
Exactly. All right. Now let's go back to more football. Since I talked about the All-Star game there, I want to talk about the All-Star game in football, or they call it the Pro Bowl, which I always think is kind of funny. The word Pro Bowl sounds like you're bowling and stuff like that. Do you know which former Bulldog has appeared in the most Pro Bowls or been selected for the most Pro Bowls all time? That was my trivia question for you this week.
Who? Most Pro Bowls?
Which former Dog has appeared in, or has been selected to the most Pro Bowls?
I'm going to go Champ Bailey.
Champ Bailey
Champ?
12. That is correct.
Hey, we both got it right, Ben.
Champ?
Hey, Ben's back with us, guys. I think Ben's back with us. There we go. Yeah, Champ.
Okay. All right. So you got Champ. Okay, who's second?
Well, if you can hear me, I'm going Champ Bailey.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good job. Okay, any of you guys know who second is?
Hines Ward.
No. Hines Ward only had 4, but that was strange.
So
I thought Hines Ward was a lot more than that.
Pro Bowl. Is it recent? Is it like 2000s? And okay. Fran Tarkenton.
Fran Tarkenton is correct with 9. After him comes Richard Seymour and Geno Atkins with 7. Then Ray Donaldson, A.J. Green have 6. Guy McIntyre, Jake Scott, Bill Stanfill, and a guy named Len House, all with 5. And speaking of Len House, today is his 79th birthday. So, Len House, if you're listening, happy 79th birthday, and go Dogs.
Hey, there we go. Dave, man, as always, we appreciate you with the stats there. I got the trivia question right the first time, got the second one right the halfway through.
How many does Hines have?
How many does
Hines
who have been?
4.
Yeah, Hines? Yeah.
Hines Ward only had 4, surprisingly. I thought he would have a lot more than that.
Hines. How many did Hines have?
4.
4. Wow.
Yeah. 2001, 2, 3, and 4.
That's going to make it felt like he played an eternity.
I know. So, Dave, as always, man, we appreciate.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead,
All
Dave.
right.
I was about to sign you off.
No. I was going to say, for a little bit, for a while, players, if you got selected into the, if you made the Super Bowl, you didn't play in that because sometimes they moved it the week beforehand. So maybe some of those you got discounted because the Steelers were in the Super Bowl a couple of times.
Oh, that could be why. That could be why.
But you know what? He's a Pro Bowl guy. He's a Hall of Famer.
Don't they still count him?
He's a darn good dog.
They still count him.
Someone also mentioned Thomas Davis on the line. I believe Thomas Davis had. Let's see. I can look that up really quickly.
Thomas Davis, I think maybe had 3. Would be my guess. 3.
He only had a couple.
Yeah.
He only had like 2 or 3.
Thomas Davis had
Drum roll, please, as Dave looks this up live. This is live TV, folks. Can't make
Three.
it up.
Yeah,
Three.
yeah,
Boom.
from
There you go. Got it right.
2017.
Got
Yep.
it right.
But that's another. That's a guy who would knock some heads if he didn't get selected. So I mean, he's a. I mean, I loved watching Thomas Davis play in those years.
Well, Dave, we love having you on the show, man. Thanks so much for calling in, giving us some great stats, and we will talk to you next week, my friend.
Sounds good. All right.
Stafford has to have 3 too, right?
I think, yeah, Stafford's probably close to that. Well, guys, we're going to wrap up the show. It's been a great show. Appreciate you guys watching. If you can, hit that like button on this video. We're trying to outpace the UGA Sports Podcast show. We know you guys love watching us more than Roddy, Dane, and Coach. So if you could, hit that like button and show your support to us and not to them. But in all seriousness, guys, make sure you hit the subscribe button.
You guys have to like us more than Roddy. Roddy sucks.
So, yeah, if you could, guys, I can't even hear Ben anymore, guys. He's like 20 seconds behind me, guys. But if you could, hit that like and hit that subscribe button, guys. We appreciate it so much, and we will talk to you guys later on. Thank you so much.